Everyone thinks that Monica's the perfectionist, but did you know that Ross is a perfectionist too? We're gonna talk about why Monica's so competitive, why Ross is always the one who gets the most embarrassing situations, and how growing up with a narcissistic mother and an absent father affected their siblinghood. And if you grew up in a narcissistic household, this one is gonna hit home. You might even identify with Ross or with Monica. In a dysfunctional family, the narcissistic parent assigns each child a role, and they interchange them according to their needs at a specific time and the child's performance. And a clear example of that is Kris Jenner. She called Kim Kardashian the favorite for a very long time, until Kylie Jenner became a billionaire. But what happens when she's angry at someone or something? Does she put it on the golden child, or does she put it on the scapegoat, the rebel who doesn't validate her ways? That dynamic created competition between the sisters and actual fights. The same thing happened with the Gellers. Judy assigned Ross to be the golden child and Monica the scapegoat. And we're gonna see exactly how these rules affected both of them individually and as siblings. However, the show shows us what happens when the siblings value their siblinghood. So Judy and Jack were married for a while. They couldn't conceive and they lost hope for some time until finally a miracle happened. She got pregnant with a baby boy. Of course they were happy. They did everything. They pampered the baby. They celebrated everything he did, and so on and so forth. Then 2 years later, a new baby arrives, a baby girl. Judy's traumas are unknowingly triggered. When that happens, the parent has two choices. Either they treat the kid the same way that their parent treated them, or they change it completely. And the choice depends on how you react to your trauma as a person. Are you trying to numb it? Are you trying to prove to yourself that you're fine and whatever happened with you wasn't that bad? Or are you trying to get it out of your system but like using someone else as a punching bag? And how you would do each of these choices is different for different people, depending on how healthy you are, depending on how narcissistic you are. For Judy, what we know is that she treated Monica the same way that her mother treated her. She criticized her every action, she belittled her achievement, or even expected the worst from her. So Monica not only grew up being criticized, she also grew up watching her brother live a completely different reality from hers. So how would a child think of that? Would a child think that their parent isn't the best parent and maybe my mom should do better? Or would they reflect it at themselves? Most likely, children would say, there must be something wrong with me. I'm not loved. I'm not as loved as my sibling. Therefore, I'm not lovable at all. I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, etc., etc. Monica probably had all of these beliefs, but the one that we can see tangible evidence of is I'm not good enough. Even when she lost weight, when she lost a lot of weight, and losing weight isn't very easy, right? So she had to deprive herself from food, and we'll circle back to food and her love for food and why she has love for food, and it's not going to be what you think it is. So stay tuned for that. But when she lost her weight, and the scene when Chandler lost his toe, which is a very funny scene. So he's complimenting Monica about her new body. And Judy's like, yeah, Monica lost weight. But what really I want to talk about is Ross's new girlfriend. So like Monica losing weight is not as important as Ross getting a girlfriend. Are you kidding me? So that's how Judy has always treated her. So we can see that no matter what Monica would do, her parents, Judy, would celebrate her brother more. So as children, we have needs. We have needs to be loved. We want to be celebrated. We want to feel seen, heard. And for Monica, no matter what she did, it was never enough. she's always been criticized. So she's always wanted her mom's love, approval, validation, but not attention though. She's always got her mom's attention if you think about it, but not in a good way. In my last video about Justin Bieber, I gave an example of a client who got her dad's attention in a bad way. This time I'm gonna explain deeper. So when we want attention, there are a few options that children do, and the behavior stays with us. So some children develop this clown behavior. They're the clown of the house, of the family, of the class, because they get attention when people are laughing. Others, they develop this being in trouble, like the client I explained about in Justin Bieber's video, but they get in trouble so they can get attention when they get yelled at, right? Or some people develop sicknesses, believe it or not, because when they're sick, they get sympathy, they get care, and all of that attention, right? So for Monica, she got her mom's attention. She's always criticized whatever she does. So she's got her mom's attention, but not in a good way. And there is proof of that. There was a scene when Ross wanted to tell them that Carol is lesbian and she's pregnant with his son. And Monica at the time, I think she lost her job or something like that, and she wanted to tell them some bad news about herself. She asks Ross, aren't you gonna tell them about Carol being a lesbian and pregnant with your baby? Like, I think it's gonna take the heat off of me. In that scene, she wants the attention, the eyes off of her, knowing that Ross is, and I'm gonna put a sarcastic quote here for this, knowing that Ross's, quote, failure will take all of the attention from her. She's been trained that whatever that happens with Ross is gonna take the attention from her. When she wants the eyes off of her, she puts Ross in like facing the wind, you know? So for attention, no, she doesn't want attention. There is difference between getting attention and feeling seen, feeling understood, feeling appreciated by your parent. And also that same scene of her wanting the eyes off of her wanting the heat off of her is proof for something else to do with Ross. And I'm gonna circle back to that when I talk about Ross, but let's keep talking about Monica. So when it comes to attention, no, she doesn't want attention. What she wants is feeling appreciated, feeling loved, feeling celebrated as they would celebrate Ross, how they would celebrate every little success of his. So she tried hard. She tried to be as successful, quote, as her brother in her parents' eyes, right? So she did everything extra. When she cleans extra clean. Everything needs to be extra good. Perfect. Even the way that she talks is extra loud when you hear her say, I know, right? That's why she developed people-pleasing behaviors as a byproduct of this extra behavior. If she's gonna help a friend, she's gonna do it extra. If she's gonna apologize, she's gonna be extra apologetic. Even when she eats extra. And I'll circle back to that. But being extra became her attitude in life. I want you to think about this. If you're trying something so hard, how would you feel if you're trying something over and over and over again, but it never works? Maybe you'll feel helpless, maybe you'll feel hopeless, maybe you feel exhausted, tired, unsettled. You would need comfort, wouldn't you? And that's what food was to Monica. A comfort. Something she could connect with. Would you think that she felt connected to her mother, to her absent father, or to her brother, to her competition? She probably felt lonely in that home. But food was probably what made her feel connected to something. And it gave her comfort. I also have a bit of a controversial theory here. Third thing food gave her was results. You see, eating and gaining weight was something that her mother could never take away from her. She could try her best in everything to see results that would gain some validation from her mother. But cleaning and eating were things that she could see the results of. Other than cleaning would soothe her, anything else would soothe her, but she could see results. Tell me what you think of this theory. And being a cook, when she would cook and people would actually love her food and give her compliments, that was the validation that she wanted. That was the compliments, the celebration that she wanted from her mother. She got it from outside. And that's what Chandler asked her when she was making those cookies for the neighbors. And she was like, but they love the cookies. And Chandler was like, you mean they love you? Now let's talk about Ross. And after that, we're going to talk about the siblinghood between Ross and Monica. So before we judge Ross, I want you to put yourself in his shoes. You grew up with your parents' love. They love you so much. They gave you everything. You would sneeze, they would celebrate your sneeze. You would fart, they would celebrate your fart. Every little thing you did, you were celebrated. And then you see a different world in front of you. You see how the same parents that are treating you like a rock star are also treating somebody else like shit. You see what they're capable of. You see that your mother can get so mean and so scary, might be the word. How would you feel? As a child, not as an adult, not with your adult mind. A little 5-year-old. Let's not make sense. Oh, I would never do that. Be a 5-year-old. Be a 2-year-old. Seeing people you idealized. You're a tiny little thing. Seeing these older and bigger humans that are supposed to take care of you are treating your sibling like shit. You're gonna be scared that they do the same for you. If you don't, then you're probably a Superman, and why the hell are you watching my videos? So what did Ross do? As a kid, he developed that fear of being treated the same way. Just like Monica developed that extra attitude, Ross developed that fear of being treated differently. He clung into that image that his parents drew for him, the golden child image. Not because he loved it, but because he was afraid of losing it. Because he saw what the other side looks like. So according to research, my work with clients, and of course, the amazing Dr. Ramani. Here's something you didn't know about golden children. You probably know that the golden children grow up to be narcissistic. What you didn't know is that this sometimes happens, but it's not always the case. What actually usually happens more often than not is that these golden children grow up with a chronic feeling of guilt. They're just guilty about anything and everything, and they're very apologetic, and sometimes they develop these self-sabotaging patterns. And you can see this with Ross. It's very evident. 3 divorces, right? He has 2 conflicting things. He's very clung into that perfect image, the education, the PhD, the image of marriage, kids, having the grandkids for his parents, just perfect life. And that is how he's a perfectionist. That's the side of Ross that we don't really talk about, the perfectionist side. He wants everything to be perfect because he wants his parents to remain happy with him. He wants his mother to remain happy with him. You'll see when they were at Pete's apartment and they thought that he was going to propose to Monica, Ross said, "You gotta get mom on the phone. Call mom, call mom." That's the first person he thinks of when it comes to pleasing or give me the validation. Look what I did. But as we said, he sees how his parents treat Monica and he feels for her. So he's walking on eggshells. He wants that perfect image to protect that perfect image, which is why he doesn't really take responsibility and he blames everyone for his mistakes. Like whatever that happens, it's someone else's mistake. Like how he did with Weed and Chandler. He also saw and knew that he is his parents' favorite. He also saw what we were talking about with Monica, like she would try hard and hard and hard and it never works, right? So it never made sense to him that he took everything so easily. So what would you do, or how would you make sense of that when you do nothing and you get all the compliments? But she does everything and gets zero compliments. No, she actually gets criticized. Would that make sense to you? Would you feel like you actually deserve that praise and compliments? You're gonna feel like, no, you don't deserve it, right? So when you feel like you don't deserve something, you reject it. That's how he developed these self-sabotaging patterns. That's why he didn't pursue Rachel when he was in school, because he didn't think that he was worthy. He knew that he gets all the compliments at home, but he never saw that he was worthy of these praise and recognition. So he had like these two conflicting things. I'm a rock star at home, but in school, the reality is different. But here's something you didn't know about the dynamic between the narcissistic parent and the golden child. You think that the golden child is always treated well. And this is the ultimate gaslight. Have you ever been in a narcissistic relationship? Do they lash out in public? Sometimes they would lash out in public, right? But their worst temper tantrums happen behind closed doors, especially in the beginning stages of a relationship. And that happens with parents as well. They do lash out on the golden child. You just don't see it. They will not show it to the scapegoat child. They will not show it to the rest of the family. Why? Because they want to keep that image of the golden child so they can manipulate you. They want you to see how they're treating that golden child, and they want you to feel jealous. They want you to feel envy. They want you to work hard to get to what the golden child is. But they also don't want the golden child to overpower them, right? Because the golden child might think that, oh, they listen to me all the time, so they might test them. They might try to get something out of the narcissistic parent, right? But the narcissistic parent doesn't want that. So they keep them on check. What do? They still treat them bad and lash out and even be like physically abusive to them, but behind closed doors. You, the scapegoat, or the rest of the family, you're not gonna know about it. To you, you see this perfect image. So when the golden child comes to you and like, you won't believe what my narcissistic parent did to me. You won't believe what my mom or my dad did to me. You're going to be like, yeah, poor you, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're not going to believe them. And that's the ultimate gaslight. And what happens usually between a brother and a sister, or the siblings in general, the scapegoat and the golden child, is that the golden child, especially if they have some guilt, the golden child would want to prove to the scapegoat that they're being treated the same, that they're the same, they're trying to connect with them. But of course, the scapegoat doesn't see that, so they're going to gaslight them. And the scapegoat develops a lot of envy and a lot of jealousy and a lot of resentment towards the golden child. Remember the scene when he was telling them about Carol being a lesbian and pregnant with his kid, and she said that, take the heat off of me. This is proof of two things. We already said that it was proof that She didn't want the attention. But the second thing, when you fail, when something isn't happening your way and you're not liking it and something bad is happening with you, it takes the heat off of me. And I believe that the self-sabotaging patterns, we talked about them before, but this is a confirmation of them. He just developed them. Monica understands that her mom isn't really the best mom, even though she's still hurt and everything, but she developed these behaviors, the extra behavior, the OCD and everything, right? And that's just who she is now. Ross developed the behaviors of not taking account of the narcissistic behaviors, let's just call it that way. But what you could see is that they're connecting. You could see that he helped her when she wanted to borrow money. They were supportive of each other. She was never afraid to be confrontational with him when she confronted him when he was super jealous of Mark. And she was like, grow up, right? Actually, I would make a wild claim and say that Monica grew up to be the mother that Ross needed. The mother that was actually discipline him and would tell him when he's doing something wrong. She was challenging him. They still had the sibling energy when they would just bicker. You could also see that Ross was happy when she got a new job, when she was getting engaged with Pete. He was also being the big brother when Monica and Chandler happened. When they were getting married, he was like, well, I have to have that talk with you. It's my role as a brother. And he really embraces that role of being her older brother. To a narcissist, he's doing a wonderful job, honestly, to a narcissist. When it comes to like his relationship with his sister. With the rest, obviously not great. Do I have to tell you that his relationship with Rachel was toxic? Do I have to tell you that, his relationship with Emily was a lot of love bombing? Actually, let's talk about that in another video, because their relationship was in a traveling context. Like, she was on a vacation, and that's something that, yeah, it needs to be its own topic. So maybe I'll make a video about that. Back to Monica and Ross. They still got each other's back. He went with her when Pete was fighting. So the fact that they managed to be brother and sister after all is respect-worthy. Usually, the scapegoat and the golden child hate each other. And the more I watch Friends, the more I could see that the writers really understood psychology. Everything made sense. The clues from their past and everything made sense. Of course, there were things that were exaggerated because it's a comedy after all, right? I also want to say a disclaimer. I think that David Schwimmer did a wonderful job making Ross likable. I think that if it weren't for David Schwimmer, we wouldn't have liked Ross. And tell me which character you would like me to talk about. I'm actually interested to talk about Phoebe, because she had a terrible childhood. She had no childhood, but she's not as traumatized as Chandler, for example. Like, his parents got divorced and he's still traumatized by it, right? But Phoebe is a very interesting character. So let me know if you want me to talk about her or you want me to talk about somebody else, and which angles you want me to talk about. Like, let me know. I'm always open to talk about Friends. It's my favorite show, actually. So if you made it this far, feel free to subscribe if you want to ask me a question or book a session or anything. If you want to book a free call with me, the link is in the description.